Right, so you know me, chat. You know me, that I absolutely hate talking about culture war discourse on stream. I avoid it like the plague. It drives me insane, but I cannot avoid this particular subject because it's all the internet is talking about. It's all anybody is talking about, and it's driving me around the bend because it's just a massive sea of misinformation. So we have to talk about Imane Khelif. We have to talk about her because the discourse is insane. So for people who don't know, I'm sure everybody has seen the discourse already, but I'm just going to pre-see this. Everybody who doesn't already know about this is Imane Khelif is an Algerian welterweight boxer who's been competing for, I think, about 10 years now in kind of the amateur professional sphere. And she competed in Rio and I believe in Tokyo as well, and she was happy to compete. There was no problems with her competing in these previous Olympics. Suddenly, in 2023, the International Boxing Association decided out of the blue that she shouldn't be able to compete anymore. They said that she failed a gender eligibility test. Now, first of all, I really, really hate this line that's being used everywhere. They talk about a gender eligibility test, but the most testing people will use in terms of how we designate people as being okay to compete in a certain sport is usually their testosterone levels. So what they actually should have said, what all of the news organisations, including the BBC, should say is that they might have a certain level of testosterone which is higher than the level of the ability for someone to be able to compete. Except the International Boxing Association is saying that she failed the gender eligibility test, and this means that she has XY chromosomes. But they're also saying we have certain methods, we're not releasing what these methods are, and we're not telling you how we did this test or what the results were. Okay, so this looks a bit sketchy, don't you? That they just randomly think that she's a man or male or has XY chromosomes, but they won't tell us how they did this, and they won't give us any of the results. And wouldn't you know, this happened just after she beat a Russian boxer. You may say, what does Russia have to do with this? Well, let me learn you a thing. Yeah, so the head of the International Boxing Association is a guy called Imane Khelif. Now, he is Russian, and he has very long links to Vladimir Putin. And, of course, the only sponsor of the International Boxing Association is Gazprom, the state-owned Russian oil company. And on top of that, they also kicked out a bunch of Ukrainian competitors. The International Boxing Association is also marred with corruption scandal. They have been removed from being the arbiter of the qualification pathway for the Olympics, and there has been a separate organisation after every pulled out of the IBA over their corruption scandals called World Boxing, which is now the people who administer all of the different qualification pathways for the Olympics. In short, the IBA is completely disgraced and is entirely a Russian asset. There's a reason why that she was removed from competition after fighting and beating a Russian opponent. So they've essentially concocted this story with no evidence being presented at all other than just, well, we say so, so it must be true, as a way to entirely smear somebody who beat a Russian. Now, it goes even deeper than this, of course. It goes even deeper than this, because a lot of the misinformation is being pushed from Russian sources too, and you may say, well, it's a bit far-fetched of you, isn't it, Helena? It's a bit far-fetched of you to say that, well, the Russian state they can't just be making things up just to get people fighting about trans people. You've got to remember, right? In the statement that Vladimir Putin made from the Kremlin, justifying the invasion of Ukraine, he talked about why J.K. Rowling was fucking cancelled. He literally went out and said, in the West, they're cancelling J.K. Rowling about trans issues. Like, these people are obsessed with this stuff, and they also know they can sow discord in the West because of it. This is a tried and true tactic of the American State Department since time immemorial. You concoct social discohesion in your geopolitical enemies, and then you exploit it geopolitically as well. This is what the National Endowment for Democracy did in Yugoslavia. They gave money to nationalist groups, and then used that to be able to fester internal divisions so that Yugoslavia could collapse, and then the neoliberals from the West could be able to reap the consequences of the shock therapy that they can engage on it. Just so happens that they did a little bit of an oopsie and a genocide happens during that period. But that's exactly what America did in Yugoslavia. They've done in African countries for generations at this point. So this is nothing new, using social issues to sow discord in your geopolitical enemies so they don't show a united front against you. It's almost the reason why that we have seen such discord amongst countries in terms of funding for Ukraine, for example, because Russia knows that this is something that will be able to break apart coalitions within European countries if they have to reduce their own living standards to help break the bulwark between pro-NATO nations and between the Russian sphere of influence, right? I'm not making any value judgments over that geopolitical action, of course. I think the invasion is wrong because I think invasions are wrong, and because I think that the damage it does to working class people is wrong. I'm not really fussed about what NATO does or doesn't do in geopolitical senses, but it's clear this is bad for Ukrainian working class people if they're at war, and so I disagree with it. It's as simple as that. It's clear that this is a deliberate Russian disinformation campaign. They also want to degrade people's support for the IOC too. Since the IOC have been less than welcoming of Russia in terms of their competition globally, and because of their slighting of the International Boxing Association for corruption just before they started sowing all this nonsense about Imane Khelif being transgender or being biologically male, for example, they also want to undermine the authority of the IOC. Everybody out here saying we can't trust the IOC, I'm boycotting the Olympics because they're allowing men to beat up women, and the only evidence that they have for this is this Russian front organisation accusing Imane Khelif of being biologically male when they have no proof. When they have no proof. It's worth pointing out, right? You can have XY chromosomes and still be phenotypically female. This is a really complex subject, so I understand if people kind of check out when we talk about all of this too. And it's because what your chromosomal sex is, that's your karyotype, and what your sex characteristics look like in terms of your physical body, that's your phenotype. These can sometimes disagree with each other in certain contexts. Now again, we have no evidence that Imane Khelif has XY chromosomes at all because the IBA never produced any evidence, right? But even if she did have XY chromosomes, that doesn't mean that she necessarily has like male gametes or male gonads. She still has, all the primary and secondary sex characteristics of a cisgender woman. She was born female, she was assigned female at birth, she's lived her life as female, and she's always fought as female, and it was never a problem before now. She could well have internal male gonads, she could have CAIS, which is complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, which is where you're born with internal undescended testes, but you also therefore have the primary sex characteristics of a female, which is you have a vulva, you have a vagina, for example. So usually these people are infertile. Or you can have XY gonadal dysgenesis, which is what the new name for Swyer syndrome is, the official name for Swyer syndrome, where you can actually have like the kind of ghost of male gonads, but can also have the entirety of the uterus and the reproductive capacity of a regular cisgender female. So chromosomes and phenotype, they all kind of mix up, as well as what gametes you produce are. These things are incredibly complex in intersex individuals. And again, I really want to point this out. Chat. We do not know whether or not she has a uterus or not. We do not know whether she has internal testes. We don't know her chromosomes. Nobody has produced any evidence. But what she has done is she has passed through the IOC's own guidelines on how people compete in the Olympics, which is being under the regulated testosterone limit, right? This is how we designate people's sex when it comes to how they compete at the Olympics. We just do testosterone checks. That's all we do. We just test the level of testosterone. If it's below 5 nanomoles, I believe, then we let them compete. Maybe that limit is too high, maybe it's not. I'm not on the IOC. I'm not going to make myself to be out some kind of expert on this, but we have no evidence that she's intersex, and people are trying to make out that she's transgender or something when she was literally born in Algeria, when being transgender is fucking illegal. It's insane. The discourse is insane. People have lost their fucking minds about this. And again, all because some fucking Russian front organisation spread some nonsense misinformation with no evidence whatsoever. And if you want any more evidence that this is like a Russian fucking psyop, the IBA have just given £50,000 to Angela Carini, the Italian boxer who conceded in 46 seconds against Imane Khelif, on the grounds that they're trying to undermine the authority of the IOC. Even though Angela Carini herself wants the culture war to end. Angela Carini has publicly said that she thinks that it was fair, she just lost control at the moment, and she wants to do an apology to Imane Khelif and thinks that it was fair that she was competing. Even the person who everyone's saying, I stand with Angela Carini, even she is pro-Imane Khelif at this point, and she was the one who, Giorgia Meloni, heir to Mussolini herself, said that she lost in an unfair fight. And it's incredible, people saying, well, she's got this natural advantage because of her slightly high testosterone level, whether that's because she's intersex or not, I don't give a shit, right? As long as she's under the limit that the IOC have judged, then that is what we have decided to be fair. And I'm like, well, also, the Olympics isn't about fairness. It's about finding the best people in the world. The people in the world who are going to be the best at each of these individual disciplines is going to be the ones who have the most, who are the ones who have the bodies who are best suited for these specific sports, right? Michael Phelps was the best swimmer because he produces way less lactic acid, has a higher wingspan, all of these other different things that make him a uniquely, like, genetically disposed towards being an excellent swimmer. Like a genetically 1 in a million in terms of 1 in billions in terms of how he produces lactic acid in his wingspan. Do we disqualify him for having a innate genetic advantage that makes it unfair because everyone else produces normal lactic acid? No, of course we don't. The Olympics is finding the best of the best of the best, and usually the best of the best of the best will be people with genetic anomalies. It's as simple as that. And yet, because of course she's Algerian, so she's Arabic, because she looks masculine, people have judged Imane Khelif to be a man. It's exactly what they do with Caster Semenya. It's exactly what they do with Dutee Chand as well, where all they say is this person is too masculine. That's the judgment that most people are coming to. People aren't looking into the actual story. They're not looking into all that's gone on in the background. They're not looking into any of the tests that have been done because no one's produced any evidence. What they are doing is looking at Imane Khelif, seeing a brown woman who's slightly masculine and going, I don't care whether you have a vagina. I don't care whether you were born as an assigned female at birth. I don't care whether you've lived your life as a woman, whether you've fought as a woman, whether you've succeeded as a woman, whether you've failed as a woman. Remember, she lost to an Irish cisgender woman at the last set of Olympics, right? They don't care about any of this. It's just policing women's levels of masculinity. You've not passed the femininity check, therefore you're no longer allowed to be classified as a woman anymore. That is the inherent misogyny of the gender critical movement, where all they will do is they'll pick out masculine women and then attack them for not being feminine enough by pretending that they are transgender or they're secretly male. Again, with no evidence at all. No evidence has been produced at all. The IBA just said so and have not produced their results. Exactly, it's absolutely a witch hunt. And it's driving me absolutely insane reading the dog shit takes about this. They did the same things to the Williams sisters and Michelle Obama. For fuck's sake, it's incredible that transvestigation has become the norm. Just regular people will just transvestigate anybody. Obviously, the answer to this, if you want us to be super cynical, would be just to start transvestigating all of the cisgender, gender-critical feminists or whatever, or the conservatives, because it's not just gender-critical feminists or TERFs or whatever who are getting up in arms. It's conservatives, it's manosphere types, it's the whole kind of rogues gallery of awful people like Andrew Tate and Logan Paul. Even Boris Becker was reposting fucking South Park clips about some fucking butch man pretending to be a woman and then going and beating people up. This thing doesn't happen, by the way. We know this doesn't happen because Ben Shapiro tried to do a documentary about this happening, couldn't find it, so had to invent a comedy called Lady Ballers to be able to do it. He literally said in an interview about Lady Ballers, saying, well, actually, sports don't just let random men say they're women and compete. Yes, you have to go through hormone replacement therapy. If you want to compete as a transgender woman, let alone as an intersex person, or indeed a cisgender woman who just has naturally higher testosterone for whatever reason, whether you're intersex or not. That doesn't happen in sports. It doesn't happen in athletics. This doesn't fucking happen. Ben Shapiro thought that it did, tried to find a case of it happening, and then couldn't do it as a documentary, so had to create it as a fucking parody because they just don't do it. And that's why people can't find real situations of this happening, and why Boris Becker is out here literally fucking retweeting a scene of South Park as if that's evidence as to why we can't have intersex people, or indeed trans people, competing in sports. That's it. Their evidence for this is an IBA test that's never been released and fucking South Park. That's the evidence. They transvestigated Carl Rittenhouse, who disagreed with Trump. They even transvestigated Angela Carini afterwards and saying, well, maybe she's not a woman either. Who knows? Who fucking cares? And it's incredible as well. They go, well, if we have intersex women competing with cisgender women, then somebody might get hurt. And I'm like, you are doing a sport where people punch you in the face. If you don't want to get hurt, maybe don't go into the sport where people punch you in the face, right? My tip from me to you, if you're worried about the impact of being punched in the face, the sport about who punches hardest probably isn't a good thing for you to be competing in. And Lisa Nandy on fucking TV said, oh, it was uncomfortable to watch. Why? Why was it uncomfortable to watch? The only reason why they say it's uncomfortable to watch is because Imane Khelif is masculine. That's it. It was uncomfortable because Imane Khelif is too masculine. That's what was uncomfortable. Lisa Nandy, who's the person saying, oh, the culture wars are over, we're not engaging in the culture wars anymore, immediately tacitly endorses the conservative framing on this by saying, oh, a masculine woman competing in the Olympics looks kind of uncomfortable to me. It's only uncomfortable if you have an innate hatred of masculine women. And now Lisa Nandy is out here fanning the flames of this for no reason whatsoever, right? Any normal, quote-unquote, grown-up politician, which is what we are being told the Labour Party are now, will have come out and just said all of the facts. We don't know what tests the IBA did. The IOC have cleared her year after year after year, competition after competition after competition. She's been cleared. She's never failed a gender eligibility test again, which we've not been seeing the results of these in transparency either. They've let her compete. She's passed the rules. She was born a woman. She was raised as a woman. She is cisgender. This is a non-argument. Everybody should shut up and go home and stop trying to police the IOC, who are the experts on this. rather than either following the advice of random things they saw on Twitter or Facebook, or following the very kind of dubious claims made by a Russian front organization. It's honestly, this is the dumbest story, the stupidest story I have ever seen. Although it's funny now, all of the TERFs who spent all of the time saying there are no men with vaginas, for example, you can't be a man and have a vagina, are now all desperate to prove that this woman who presumably has a vagina, not that we're doing genital inspections yet, by all means the gender critics wish we were doing fucking genital inspections so we prove what people are, now are saying, well actually even if she does have a vagina, it doesn't matter, she'll now be a man with a vagina because she has XY chromosomes or Swire syndrome or complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, which we don't even know that she has because no one's proved it. No one's shown any results showing she has Swire syndrome or complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. No one's proved it. There is no proof. We don't even know whether she's intersex. All that we know is that she was born a woman, she's phenotypically female, she completes in the female division, she passed the IOC's tests. That is literally all we know. Incredible, incredible. Although I guess Kelly J. Keane Minchell will have to stop ending all of her statements with no man has a vagina because clearly she believes that they do. Hope all the speculation about Imane Khelif doesn't land her in trouble in her own country. This story could have serious consequences. Luckily, the Algerian authorities have called this what it is, a conspiracy. They have said that it's a conspiracy to stop Algeria winning medals, and they have thrown their weight behind her, which is good. I'm glad that they have done that. But that doesn't make their social reactionary politics any better. But even so, like, I don't think that Algeria is going to be the ones who are going to be attacking her. Because again, she has been someone who's been successful for them in the past. Not like totally successful. She has lost, like, I think it's 5 fights and won 9. So she's not completely unbeatable. Her clear advantage that she has allowed her to lose quite a lot of fights at this point. But I'm glad the Algerian authorities have just come out behind her directly straight away. And on top of all of this, there is a person in beach volleyball who is a child rapist who's competing. Yet the defenders of women are getting mad about a masculine woman existing whilst masculine, rather than getting mad about the child rapist who is also competing. And this is why Russia sow this disinformation, because they know that the grift types will want to sow internal social division within us. It's as simple as that. It's geopolitically useful for them. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.